I drown in the empty pool of life. My soul is flooded with anger and strife. Dry eyes full of tears, happiness is only a facade. Accepting there's only agony and despair is now gone. Echoes and prayers have no place to land, so my dreams turn silent and slip from my hands. So as you wake me from my nightmarish dreams, listen loudly, my silence screams. Echoes and prayers have no place to land, so my dreams turn silent and slip from my hands. So as you wake me from my nightmarish dreams, listen loudly, my silence screams. In my mind, a world of confusion, hoping and wishing it was just my delusion. Cold and heavy, I throw at your feet my broken heart with barely a beat. With barely a beat. With barely a beat. In my mind, a world of confusion, hoping and wishing it was just my delusion. Cold and heavy, I throw at your feet my broken heart with barely a beat.
Hey y'all, it's Morning Label Nina. This is Morning Label Discussions. And I am going to discuss today that dreaded IgG. And I don't usually take notes. I mean, I usually just wing it. But I have to admit, on the IgG, Nina got notes. I mean, because boy, I tell you what, that ain't no joke. I mean, so this has nothing to do with guilt, has nothing to do with innocence, has nothing to do with being a pro-burger or a guilter or anything like that. I do research. I love research. I'm using my channel to put my research out there. Anybody that knows me knows that I will tell anybody that we are all responsible. Sorry, y'all. That we are all responsible for our own. Hang on. Oh my gosh. Dabby, I don't edit. Anyway. Don't ever take the word of any creator for gospel. Don't ever blind follow. Don't ever do anything like that. We're all accountable for our own research. And believe me, you will do yourself a whole lot of favors if you follow up, if you research. You know, we owe it to the victims. We owe it to the victim's family. We owe it to the defendant to do our own research. So that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm putting the research out there. What you do with it, I am not at all trying to persuade anybody. I'm not trying to say who's right, who's wrong. Only presenting my research. So I ask that, you know, if you disagree with something, if you agree with something, if you're not sure of something, research, research, research. With that being said, I know the IgG is in the motion to suppress, and you know, of course, without the IgG, then we don't have anything. That's going to be the first thing that I found out. As far as if the IgG gets thrown out, we do not have a case because the IgG led to the warrants that led to this, led to this, led to this. Okay. And believe me, anything I'm about to say, after I get finished talking, I have a video. It's got my receipts, and it has a lot of information that I think that will be very informative to you. And it has an interview with CeCe Moore. And anybody that knows CeCe Moore's name knows that CeCe Moore is like the godmother of genetic genealogy. Ugh. It's going to be a whole lot of words that get me tongue-tied. I'm a little Southern girl. No, I'm a big old Southern girl. So some of these words, they're not made for Southern girls. The way that I understand this, and believe me, I've told y'all before, I don't even have a college degree. So I am in no way a forensic scientist, a genealogist, nothing like that. Just a grandmama doing some research. So, but reading the documents and research and stuff like that I've done, from the way I understand it, you get the DNA off of the button. It goes to the Idaho State Forensic Lab, okay? They get an STR. And that's what they do, the DNA and stuff like that they do with that. That is blood. That is semen. That is biological, okay? Then what they do, the first thing they have to do is they do the DNA, the STR, okay? Second, they run it through CODIS. If it does not get a CODIS match, it gets sent out to a third-party company like Orthram, whatever, Parabon, whoever, third party. Because according to C.C. Moore, there is no law enforcement, no FBI, no anything that has the lab to make an S&P. So you have to send it out to a third party to build the S&P, okay? When the S&P gets built, then it goes to the FBI. In this case, okay, normally it just stays with the third party and they give you all the information. Now, the FBI does have a genealogical lab, okay? But this is where I think myself and a lot of people were getting totally screwed up, okay? Because we think this blood is getting just transferred everywhere. You know, it's just, they're doing this over here to it. They're doing this over here to it, you know. And I finally, my little light bulb finally went off because the S&P, it gets put together and built and everything through the third party. Well, in this case, when it got built and all the reports and stuff, it got sent to the FBI, okay? Because the FBI can do their own IGG, as the FBI calls it, FGG, Forensic Genetic Genealogy, or Forensic Genealogy Genetic, no, anyway. So then they're the ones that build the family tree. And so the S&P comes back, and the S&P gives them reports. And you're going to see me looking at my notes because this is when it gets tiki. And it comes back and it's got, whoa. I got too many notes. And I don't want any dead space because dead space really bothers me. So just be patient. Okay, so the S&P comes back. That is a single nucleotide polymorphism. Now, see, I know what poly is. That's more than one. I know what morph is. You know, that's like morphing into something, you know. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, like my son used to watch. And he comes back, and it has a report called an admixture heritage report, okay? And from the way I understand that, that's your ethnic background. You know, you're this much African-American, this much white, this much English, this much whatever, okay? Whatever. It's your percentages of your background. And so they take that, and then they have another report that comes back, and you can tell that I really do not like notes. I am so sorry. Anyway, they take the reports, and most of the reports come back from the, hang on. Sorry about that. My dog decided that she wanted in my lap, and she only weighs 100 pounds, so with no sense being that on camera. So anyway, so you get the admixture heritage report. Well, then you also get the genetic match list. And from what I understand, that's the bulk of putting the family tree together, because the genetic match list gives you all the genetic, anybody and everybody that matches that SNP. And the way I understand it is that the STRs, if I'm not mistaken, they have like 10 to 20 markers, and then the STR, they have hundreds of thousands up to millions. So it's a whole lot broader spectrum as far as, finding somebody out. So the FBI gets it. And they can't tamper with it, y'all, because it's made somewhere else. It's made at a third-party facility. They get the reports and everything to where they can build the family tree. And to build the family tree, of course, they have to start building out and go in. And with this IGG, they were working with like over 100 relatives that they had to break down. And they went through public records, that looking at birth certificates, death certificates, if they were deceased, marriage license, divorce, anything like that can connect, your heritage. And they did it through a third-party portal, okay? And that's the reason that in court, when Bill Thompson made the statement, I can't give you something I don't have, that was the honest to God's truth, because he cannot give it to them. Because the FBI looked at all the information for the SNP through the third-party portal. It was not just sent over to the FBI to freely do what they want to with. The SNP is loaded up into a database. They look at all the information, all the matches, everything about the SNP through a database of the third party, okay? So that's the only thing they can do, is take notes, like handwritten notes and stuff from that portal, and then they can consult with the databases that are available to law enforcement, and that's only 2. And I know one of them is GEDmatch, and the other one is, I'm not sure, but there's only 2 that's available to law enforcement. Now, I know you're going to ask, what keeps them from doing it, and nobody knowing? And CC answered that questions in this interview. And right now, there's no laws to stop them from doing it. So even if they did it, it's not illegal. It's unethical. It looks bad. It doesn't look good at all. And D'Angelo, the first one that, got the life sentence for all the people that he killed in California. Come to find out, when they did that, law enforcement did not tell that it was for a murder case, and they did not tell that they were law enforcement. And even at that, he's found guilty and got a life sentence. It didn't get thrown out. And so even if they did backdoor it, and I am in no way saying they did, but the way I understand it is, even if they did backdoor the IGG, it's not against the law, because there's no laws except for in Utah, Maryland, and Montana. That's the only 3 states that have laws regulating. But then CC Moore also said that it is written into the law that even if law enforcement mucks everything up with the IGG, that does not get the defendant off. He is still goes to trial and everything else. So they can muck it up. They can do what they want to. And that's one thing she's advocating for, is for laws to be put in place. Now, in 2019, the DOJ did put out an interim policy on IgG. As of right now, I mean, there's so many oversights. I mean, I had no idea until I did this research. The American Bar Association, I've got so many reports from them to where, I mean, they're actually trying to pass, it's House Bill 519. And it basically follows step by step everything that the state of Maryland did in their law. And they are lobbying and everything for them to pass this. And I agree with that. You know, I don't agree. I mean, there's oversight, there's ethics, there's oversight, but the good thing about it is when that happened with DeAngelo, there were no kind of terms of services in place at these 23andMe and stuff like that. Well, after that happened, you can guarantee that those lawyers that are deep in their pockets, they put out terms of service. So if you are law enforcement, according to the way CC talks, and it's in the interview so you can hear it for yourself, and if I've misunderstood it, please put it in the comments. Anything that I have misunderstood, or if you feel, you know, I messed it up or something, please tell me, because I don't want to give out any kind of messed up information. So listen to the interview yourself and see if you draw the same conclusions that I did. And I will tell you that it's in snippets because I didn't want to get a copyright. So, but it is, you know, anyway. So they build the family tree. They've got hundreds of relatives. They narrow it down going outwards in, okay? You got to consider that when they build this family tree, it has name, birth date, death date, if they're deceased. It has all their information on there, okay? So in order to protect the person that opted into their DNA getting tested up against stuff like this, that's the reason that the state is fighting it so much, is because they don't want to just put all that information out there to everybody. And so Ann Taylor is asking for all the reports, step by step of how they did it, everything. So let me explain how they do not have this and how Bill Thompson was actually telling the truth. When he said, I can't give you something I don't have. When Kohberger got put in custody, according to DOJ policy, they have to remove the SNP from the third-party portal, okay? When they remove that SNP, it stops all access. There's no getting back into that portal. There's no going back and saying, hey, just one more look. You have to load another SNP to get back into the portal. So he was telling the truth, because I know that the FBI has turned over their notes, and they actually turned over the family tree, you know. And I do know that the judge, I think it was November or December of last year, actually watched in camera the whole thing, you know, and got, I mean, as far as I know, he got everything there was to get, you know. And he did it in camera. And then in January, he ruled that Kohberger was entitled parts of it. Now, unfortunately for us, we don't know what parts, because those parts are sealed. We just know he got part of it. Now, what they did do too is, I think there's 2 times that Ann Taylor came back and requested from the court, I think, for 3 experts to look at it, and that got granted. Then she came back again for investigators to look at it, and it got approved. So nobody's keeping anything from the defense. You know, anything that she's wanted to look at, anytime she's wanted to look at it, it has been approved. You know, so, I mean, that's neither here nor there. Only reason I'm doing this is because if any of you are like me, you know, you talk DNA, IgG, stuff like that. I'm thinking blood, I'm thinking biological, you know, stuff like that. And then when I realized that the IgG was mostly analysis and putting the puzzle together, not really working in the lab with biological fluid and stuff like that, it made a whole lot more sense to me. And so when people say that Don Daniels used the DNA in the search warrant, and you can't do that. Okay. The DNA being used in the search warrant is 100% different from the IgG being used in the search warrant. The IgG is only a tip. It can only be used as a lead. It's not admissible in court. It proves nothing. It means nothing. And so, you know, you're sitting there thinking, well, how can something so important and something that can lead the police to a murderer, how can that not be important? How do you just throw that by the side and say, okay, it's over, it's done, it means nothing? Because it's the truth, it means nothing. It's only a tip. Just like you call up the hotline and you say, well, the tip line, not the hotline, the tip line, and say, hey, I got a tip. I think it's Joe Blow. That's all the IgG is. That's all it ever can be. That's all it ever was. Now, everybody wants to know, did the car come first? Did the IgG come first? Did the whatever come first, or did this come first? It doesn't matter. Regardless, they got it. Not saying that, okay, they got it. They got the person that they perceive to be guilty. Are responsible. I'm not going to say, yeah, I can say guilty. I'm just a person. I'm not going to be on the jury. I'm in Alabama. So it's irrelevant now because it's just a tip. That's it. Law enforcement still had to go out. They still had to match his car. They still had to do their own investigation to get to him without just depending on the IgG. And they, according to court records, and him being in the defendant's chair, according to them, have done that. And it doesn't matter if the IgG came first or if the car came first. It doesn't matter if they took the IgG tip and built around that, as long as they did the investigation that can get them to him. No, that's not right. They have to show that they would have eventually, it may have took them 10 years, but that they can get to him without the IgG because it's only a tip. It cannot be the only connection between him and the crimes. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So, yes, the IgG turned over Kohberger. It did. I'm not going to beat around the bush about that. Without the IgG, because we don't know what they have, we only know what they've allowed us to know, they probably would have got to him, but it may have taken years. It may have gone cold. But they may have gotten to him, you know, like I said, without the IgG. Did the IgG speed it up? Yes. Was the IgG unlawfully done? In my opinion, no. Was the IgG faulty? In my opinion, no. And I know a lot of people don't trust law enforcement. I'm an ex-meth head. I've had my share of trouble with the law enforcement, so I understand all that, okay? But if we're going to sit here and we're going to say that Kohberger was set up, we're going to say that Moscow set him up, University set him up, the frat brothers set him up, Washington State set him up, Pennsylvania set him up, FBI set him up. All this is a setup on one person. Why? Why? There was over 50 officers in Pennsylvania. So we got 50 people that's going to go along with this. Nobody's going to say anything. Nobody's going to say, I ain't risking my job. I ain't risking my captain's title to be involved in all that bullcrap. And I mean, you know, that's just logical, y'all. I mean, I do not believe he was set up. I do not believe that WSU, Washington State, Pennsylvania, FBI, Moscow, the University of Idaho, Scott Green, the frat brothers, the sorority sisters, the drug cartel. I don't believe none of that. No, not at all. I mean, that's just reaching for me. I mean, and then you're going to ask me, you know, so one person do it? That's a whole different story. I'm getting off course. We will discuss how I feel about it in another video. How about that? I'm trying to stay on course. Back to my train of thought. According to the DOJ, everything the S&P gets took out of the portal, so they can't get to it anymore. The judge has approved him get part of the IGG. He's approved defense to get people to come in and see it. The only thing that they're refusing, and I'm not sure what they gave defense, you know, but I think they're protecting the names of the matches. And that makes sense. You know, don't put those names out there. They didn't do anything. They don't need to be involved in this high profile case, you know, just because they opted in on a DNA test. They don't need to be involved. Let's protect them, you know. And like I said, I probably have really mugged this up. I do hope that it has helped a little bit as far as DNA, IgG, totally separate, biological analysis. And you know, I've got a lot of things in this video that shows the oversight. And every case that has gone to court over the Fourth Amendment Privacy Act has been thrown out. CeCe Moore said that she has been called to be a witness and she's always got struck or sent home because it's already got precedent set. And that they give up that right to privacy when they leave their DNA at a crime scene. And y'all, you have to agree with that. You know, it's his DNA. No matter what any creator says, please do your research. It's his DNA. Okay? Nobody switched it. Nobody played with it. Nobody doctored it. In my opinion. Okay? If it comes out that 500 law enforcement people did all this to one person, then all of them need to be sitting right there where he is. And I'll line up. I'll go and watch them all go to court. So that's how strongly I feel about it. You know, if somebody did this to him, then he needs to go free, and those people need to take his place in the chair. Unfortunately, we don't know enough about what they have. All we can do is speculate and have opinions and theories and stuff like that. Again, I'll say, I am not arrogant enough to think that I'm going to set my fat butt in Alabama and solve the Idaho 4 case without seeing some kind of evidence. I ain't even seen a drop of blood yet. So, anyway, that's neither here nor there. That'll be a whole different video. So I am going to hush now because I have talked too long. Golly, I've got 4 pages of notes, and I know that I have not gone through 4 pages of notes. So let's see, they build the tree, and the FBI no longer has records of it. I think that's about it. But like I said, the right to privacy was given up when they leave their blood at the crime scene, their semen at a crime scene, anything like that. And as far as all the technical mumbo jumbo, I am not a technical person. I am just me. And you can tell that those 4 pages of notes did me not a bit of good because of the technicalities of it. I was going to come in here and I was going to just totally explain the IGG. I'm not even going to try that because I am not, that's not me. I mean, that's the reason I got CC coming up next. She's going to explain it. But I can tell you that as far as my research, the IGG is pretty much on the up and up. I can't tell you anything about how they got it, when they got it, why they got it, or anything like that. My video was just the process of the IGG, the process of getting to Kohberger and how they got there. And the IGG had nothing to do with matching his DNA to the sheath, because the Supreme Court ruled that the trash on the side of the road is fair game, and Pennsylvania picked it up off the side of the road along with the neighbor's trash. They matched it to the DNA. Bada boom, bada bing. It's his DNA. He goes to jail. So, I'm Nina Kelly. I'm not Nina Kelly. I changed my name. I'm Warning Label Nina. Oh, Lord. I'm Warning Label Nina. This is Warning Label Discussions. Again, I won't say enjoy the video, but I would at least listen to CC and read the documents and the receipts that I have attached. And I hope that it's informative, and leave a comment, let me know, and I'll see y'all next time. We're going to be discussing, the confidential informant and my thoughts on that. And of course, unpopular opinion of that. So, see y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.
What do you use in the U.S.? What can we use here? What can't we use? So,
well,
I mean,
it's true across the world right now that the only databases that are available to use for investigative genetic genealogy are GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. So we cannot access Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, or MyHeritage for law enforcement. And that is because their terms of service all bar that use. And
genetic genealogy and trying the SNP method. Now, they had the SNP made at an outside lab. That may not be the right word. Is that what it is? What's
right?
What
and that's because, as I mentioned, none of the crime labs yet have the capability to create SNP profiles. So they have to send it to a third-party private lab. That's the only choice right now. So I just want to make a note about the Kohberger case. A couple of things. One, I absolutely think the authorities did the right thing, moving immediately to investigative genetic genealogy when they didn't get that hit in CODIS. That is what I've been advocating for, because that's where we can have the biggest impact on public safety and make the most difference. We can potentially save lives. Stick to those 2 databases that have notified their users that law enforcement is using those databases and given people the opportunity to opt in or opt out of having their DNA compared. Very powerful law firms and legal teams, and they have vowed to vigorously fight any efforts of law enforcement to get into their databases. I can't say it's impossible, but I think it's highly unlikely.
And speaking about sort of the repercussions that ripple out from some of these things, the Kohberger case has a lot of really important arguments that are being made because they are going to affect future cases. It's very public, and these arguments are going to be made over and over. And I have a question. One of the defense has asked what would probably be pretty standard questions for defense side attorneys to ask, like, show me the searches you did, show me the tree that you created, show me the documents around your investigation. And the position and most importantly, probably all the persons who were found to share sufficient centimorgans so that I can take a look at those and see whether or not they could also be potential suspects in the case. So, and the government, the state has opposed that and made the argument that I think makes sense from what you're saying, has made the argument that it isn't really about the search for it, it's about the person. And then when you find the person, you compare their DNA and either it matches or it doesn't. So the process to get there doesn't really matter. But my question is this: if it's so unimportant, why not just produce that? Why not just produce the tree, show people how you got there? Why would you not show your work?
Because we need to protect the privacy of the matches and their extended families. They have not done anything wrong, and they shouldn't be pulled into a trial, and certainly not a high-profile trial like this. So if the court in the Kohberger case follows already established precedent, then they will rule that those are not discoverable because they are not evidence. They are not going to be used against the suspect in a court of law. They are not the reason that he was arrested. That DNA match to his father, and then the swab they took directly from him, are the reason he is being charged with this crime. And so none of what I do or any other genetic genealogist is going to be used against that suspect in any way. It's just a tip. Like I said, it's like if someone called into Crime Stoppers. And so the reason that the prosecutors and DAs have fought so hard to protect the privacy of those matches is because if those identities were to come out, it would be much less likely that anyone would want to upload to GEDmatch and opt in to this type of matching. It could really have an incredibly chilling effect on this amazing tool and being able to help solve these cases and get violent criminals off the streets. And so there was a judge in California that ruled they were basically confidential genetic informants, that they needed their identities protected in the same way that a confidential informant would. So say that someone was charged with a crime like this and they somehow got off and they were actually guilty. Maybe a technicality or some other reason. Maybe the prosecution didn't put on a good case. And then they knew exactly which of their relatives were the ones that were partially responsible for their identification. That doesn't seem like a very good situation, does it? Who would want that? And so they're trying to protect the tool and the technique within the confines of the law, of course. And so in the 70 or so convictions that we've seen in our cases so far, the precedent and the case law has been consistent. All of the judges have ruled in the same way so far. That's not to say that could never change, but there's much more precedent and case law out there than most people realize.